So let's say somebody out there that's watching or listening to this is thinking about taking their Tesla to the track, like because it's an electric car, you have to deal with the battery. What are some of the things that you have to kind of keep in mind as you're taking it to the track that you might not have to keep in mind with the gasoline powered car?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you take a gasoline powered car to the track, you're going to go through gas.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stop probably once during the day to go out and get more gas, be that at the track or at an actual station close by.
Yeah.
That's not something you can do in this, obviously. So you have to be able to be prepared to charge it. And depending on the model that you have, the state of charge will drop dramatically. This one, because it's using two motors, it uses a lot of state of charge every time I go out there, to the point where if I go out for my typical one warm-up lap, 2 hot laps, 1 cool-down lap, I can go through 20 to 25% of the charge in that those few laps. So it's a lot.
In like one track session?
One track session, right.
Okay.
And so you've got to be prepared to charge it. So generally, when I bring this car back in after being on a track, I plug it in immediately.
Okay.
Because I have to constantly be charging the car to make sure that it stays as close to 100% as I can get it.
Right.
Unlike an internal combustion engine car, where it doesn't really care how much fuel is in the tank as long as there is some fuel.
Right.
The power drops off the lower the state of charge gets. So when you get below 80, 75% starts to drop, and then it kind of continuously drops from there, all the way to the point where if you get to about 35%, it'll really drop. I mean, it feels like it loses like 200 horsepower.
Okay, because it's trying to keep you from hitting zero and basically stalling out.
And it's safeguarding the batteries, because if the batteries are a lower state of charge and it's trying to suck too much energy from that battery, it can actually damage the battery. So it's there as a means of protection as well for its own systems.
So when you're going to the track, are you just like looking for was it a 220 outlet or something, or is it something beyond that?
No, that's basically it. And the great thing about most tracks is most tracks are set up to have RVs for people who camp.
Right.
And most RV plugs, are 50 amp setups, a 240 volt 50 amp plug. Some of them are 30 amp that are also 240 volt. Either one of those will pretty much keep it, 50 amp definitely will keep it charged up throughout the day.
Oh, wow.
30 amp will be a little bit slower, but it's pretty much enough to keep it charged throughout the whole day.
So a track that has electrical connections for RVs, most likely you're going to be just fine.
You're fine. And that's what I do. So when I'm going to a track, there's a little bit of pre-work that I have to do to make sure that I have access to that. Yeah. So either I will be calling the track and saying, hey, do you have this 50 amp hookup for an RV? Where are they located? Just so that I know that I can get one. Do I have to reserve one in advance?
Right.
Some tracks you do, some tracks you don't.
Okay.
The Gridlife stuff, they always sell the RV hookups for the weekend, so I always make sure that I buy out an RV hookup. Works out. I stay in my trailer, so I have to power my trailer anyway, so I power the trailer and the car typically at the same time. So it works out well. So it really is, it's pretty easy once you get there.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it is, outside of making sure that it stays charged, there's really nothing else you have to do outside of the standard stuff. Make sure you don't have loose suspension joints, make sure that your brakes are in proper order.
Tires are still in good shape.
Right, and outside of that, you never have to check oil. You're never checking transmission fluid. You're never checking, rear end fluid, or messing with any of that stuff.
Because it doesn't really have those things.
Spark plugs you never have to worry about again. You don't have to worry about turbos going out on you. The maintenance on this has been far less than I've been accustomed to, and I race a lot of different cars. Even tracking. Okay. So I have yet to even change the fluid in the motors.
Wow.
So it's still the factory fill fluid, about 2 years old.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to do that this winter. Change, because there's filters on each motor, and then also fluid. I'm going to do a drain and fill on the fluid and change the filters. But I still have not done that.
That doesn't sound like a bad deal.
It's not, honestly. And other than going through brake pads because it's heavy, and tires because it's heavy, that's the biggest consumable, honestly, that you have. The other great thing that a lot of people don't think about, and this is definitely not going to last forever, but right now I like to kind of bring up and laugh at my friends who are constantly dropping more E85 into their tanks. I generally, in a lot of the tracks I go to, I don't have to pay for the power hookup. A lot of times it's just there and available. Okay. So the track is paying for my power. Wow. Or the entry fee is paying for the power, or somebody else.
The rental of the space, yeah.
So right now, that will change, because as these become more popular, you're going to pay more and more for electricity to power them. But, currently it's also nice.
I guess kind of related to that, makes me wonder if there's talk about putting like Tesla fast charge stations at tracks and stuff like that.
It's already happening.
Would that make a big difference? Or is it just really actually not that big of a deal to just plug into the RV outlets?
That'll make a huge difference when it comes to the number of these cars that you start to see on track.
Okay.
Because right now, in most events, I'm the only one there.
Okay.
So it's very easy for me to continue to power the car. If they started putting superchargers in at every track, though, and you would start to see more of these cars show up for sure, because people would not be so concerned about keeping them charged.
You would know that there's supercharger.
Plenty of power available. Even if there was only one supercharger at a track, that would be enough to keep multiple Teslas going for the day.
Sure.
Because the charge time is so fast on them. But places like Laguna Seca, Laguna Seca's got a whole bank of Tesla chargers that they put in. I think they've got 8 or 12 of them that are out there now. Tracks are starting to pick it up.
Okay.
Tracks are starting to understand that, much like we are, the future's coming, things are changing, they got to be prepared.